The saga of Nolan Wells continues. I released a video about 10 to 12 days ago now, depending on when you're watching this, where I went over what we knew about the case, what kind of stood out to me, and some of the things that were inconclusive or were just strange about the situation. Ben Crump and Al Sharpton immediately had jumped out and stated that they were going to have a second autopsy.
And that's why the family, at their behest, we had an independent autopsy being performed.
Because they felt as if they could not get a fair autopsy, as well as they thought there might be some foul play by the police in Mississippi. I wouldn't say I agreed with that at first, but I also didn't dismiss it because we just didn't have enough evidence. Now that the second autopsy has been conducted and we have a bit more evidence, I'm starting to kind of change my tune and maybe think that there was no foul play. We can't rule out completely that there was no foul play, but in the autopsy, there's a few findings.
I will tell you a few findings that stood out. For example, the report describes this area of red discoloration at the back of Nolan's head. Its cause is unknown. Pathologist said the finding is significant enough for further investigation. The report also found no fractures, no deep tissue injuries. It also makes clear that there were important limitations to this examination because this was a second autopsy performed after the state of Mississippi had already completed its own examination. And the pathologist, indicated that certain parts of Nolan's body were missing, namely pieces of Nolan's throat. So therefore, according to Crump, you can't rule out injuries to the neck. According to this, the pathologist also didn't have toxicology results, noted that the level of the body's decomposition, all complicating a definitive conclusion as to what happened to Nolan. And by the way, the results from the state medical examination haven't been released. The coroner's office is apparently waiting the toxicology report there too. So what do we make from this? What does it tell us about that first examination? I want to go straight to Joseph Scott Morgan, forensic expert, certified death investigator from Jacksonville State University, host of the Incredible Body Bags podcast. Good to see you, sir. First thing I want everybody to know is, as we are evaluating this autopsy report, Dr. Roger Mitchell, you're familiar with his work, right? And you looked at this autopsy. How would you grade it?
Stellar.
Stellar.
He did
Okay.
he did a fantastic job. Absolutely.
You said it was very thorough, the way he looked at the body?
Incredibly thorough. As a matter of fact, Jesse, there's a lot of things I can't go into on air out of good taste.
Sure.
But just suffice it to say, his thoroughness rivals any other any autopsy that goes to this level where you need these kind of eyes on it. He did a fantastic job.
Okay, two questions. One, is it abnormal that this second autopsy, the body they're provided apparently didn't have body parts, didn't have throat structures, neck structures, and B, is that the reason the cause and manner of death are undetermined?
No, I think it's certainly a component of it, Jesse. The body, as the doctor points out, is absent the larynx and the trachea. So you're thinking about where your voice box is, and also your windpipe, otherwise known as a windpipe. And why is this significant? It's significant because these are areas that we look for relative to trauma, right? So crushing of the larynx, any kind of what we refer to as the strap muscles that kind of lace over the neck, that would give you an indication of where somebody could have throttled or done a ligature. And most importantly, and he makes note of this in his report, and where we heard this term before, there's no hyoid. So the hyoid has been contained, or retained rather, by the Mississippi State Medical Examiner's Office there. And they're doing it, I think, probably for further consultation and perhaps from an evidentiary standpoint.
Does that mean that their conclusion would be definitive? If they're looking at these specific body parts, that they can come out and say, we know what happened to Nolan, we can give you the cause and manner of death. If they're going to at least retain those body parts for a specific reason, is that something we can expect?
Yeah, they're just not going to arbitrarily retain these. That's something that would have gone with the body, so they're holding on to that.
Even right there, you can take that as one of two ways. They're holding those parts of the body because they do think that there's foul play and they're holding it for the investigation, or they're holding it because they're corrupt and because it's Mississippi and they don't like black people and the history of Mississippi and the civil rights and yada, 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 right? I tend to be not as skeptical as some people have been, but if they're holding these parts of the body, I would like to assume that there is going to be a thorough investigation. They are expecting to, at some point in time, whether it's this week or next week, come out and say that they're looking for suspects.
and this is pending toxicology. So they're waiting for a combination of that. One of the problems that the second autopsy ran into is they could not assess whether or not this young man had water in his lungs, which is something that we look for in drowning. There are other areas, other things that we look for as well, but the doctor makes a specific comment on that as well.
Yeah, that he couldn't directly examine the airway, lung, or stomach. I got to
Yeah.
ask you about this is something that's getting a lot of attention. Is this red discoloration in the soft tissue at the back of Nolan's head? If I even go to the report and I go to the first page of it, they call it focal area of red discoloration in the soft tissue of the back of the head, occipital region. Talk to me about what that could be. And this is the most important question, I think. Whatever this is, this abrasion, this discoloration, potential injury, whatever, the only way it could have been inflicted is before Nolan died, meaning he had to have been alive when this happened?
Well, what the doctor is saying that he cannot include or exclude, and what he would be looking for specifically in this red discoloration is if there is evidence of hemorrhage. One of the problems that he's running up against here, and it makes sense, is that he's in a significant state of decomposition at this point, particularly by the time the doctor is performing the second autopsy. So that area is compromised. He does make note of that. Also, I have to make this comment, Jesse, that with red discoloration like this, sometimes this is in fact indicative of decomposition. It'll turn to a red color. So he's trying to balance this along the way. And keep in mind, he frames everything from the perspective of the fact that this is an ongoing investigation. He has reached no definitive conclusions.
And I think that last sentence is probably one of the most important parts. He's not come to any definitive conclusion. Therefore, the investigation is still going on. So people losing their shit and saying some of the things they've been saying is very unreasonable. Let's go to a few of those clips.
This forensic pathologist identified several limitations during the second autopsy. This forensic pathologist identified several limitations during the second autopsy that create barriers to establishing a definitive cause and manner of death for Nolan Xavier Wells. And that's important. He talks about the fact that we didn't get to see the body when it was first recovered, like the medical examiner working for Mississippi would have seen it. He talked about the second autopsy performed on Nolan Wells revealed marked decompensation or changes. Marked decompensation can obscure the presence and
Decomposition, bro. Decomposition. Not decompensation. Decomposition. Wow, I can't even. Decomposition? Decomposition? Y'all know what the fuck I'm trying to say, man. Now I confuse my damn self. But come on, bro. Come on. This is embarrassing. I'm sorry. I've never liked Ben Crump. I haven't. Or Al. Them are two grifters to me.
absence of bruising on the skin surface, especially during a second autopsy examination. What he's saying, because the body was so decomposed that you couldn't tell if there was bruises or abrasions on the body when he received it on the 10th.
Right. So therefore, the absence of evidence means that there is evidence of foul play. Like again, I think that the family even going with this guy just makes things that much tougher, because to me, he's not trying to get to the bottom of things. He's just trying to stir up this idea that because Mississippi has a deep-rooted history in shit that happened 50, 60 years ago now, and it was obviously bad and not humane and not okay at all, but that people are still living that life and that you can't get a fair assessment or even a fair trial if you're black and something like this happened to you. Like it's just nonsense. Maybe I'm being naive. Maybe I think too much of the justice system. I don't know. You guys tell me in the comments.
Dr. Roger Mitchell said that the focal area of red discoloration in the soft tissue of the back of the head, the occipital region, is significant.
Occipital.
Because he cannot determine why you have that red discoloration in the back of his brain.
Well, what the doctor is saying that he cannot include or exclude, and what he would be looking for specifically in this red discoloration is if there is evidence of hemorrhage.
That's significant. He also talked about, Mr. Williams, if you can, just the fact that as it's common practice, he was missing his throat when they received the body. And he wants to know why they held it back. He's not drawing any conclusions, but he said he would want to examine it if there were neck fractures or compressions to the neck. And he thinks that's significant to know at autopsy. The reason he said he would hold it back when he was medical examiner because he thought that there may have been some issues with neck fractures. The last thing that is significant,
Which goes back to what I said earlier. If there are some issues, guess what? That means there's an investigation going on. They're going to be looking for someone who possibly could have hurt Nolan Wells. Not that, oh, we're holding it back because we actually don't want to find out what happened to Nolan Wells. You see how he obfuscates there and doesn't really give you the whole picture, just allows you to immediately insert your train of thought, which most people who are going to hear this are going to be like, oh my God, he's holding it back? That must mean there's foul play and they don't want to tell us.
is what we said before about him, the condition of his body when he went into the water. Was he conscious or unconscious? Was he forced or unforced into the water? He said those things are very significant. But he started off talking about this red discoloration in the back of his head is something that was of great concern to him.
One of the other things that when I made the first video I had said was that I didn't understand how none of his friends were speaking out or saying anything about what had happened, and a lot of them actually deactivated their social media accounts, and I found that a bit suspicious, even though I wasn't willing to say, okay, I think that because they deactivated their accounts that makes them a target. But then you find out that a lot of them were receiving death threats and people were doxing them because the immediate narrative of this black boy who goes out with his white friends on this boat and doesn't come back, now that must mean that they're racist, was permeating every parts of social media and was actually leading to them being harassed by obviously dumbasses on the internet. Here's one of Nolan's friends talking to Officer Tatum, who's also a content creator.
Relationship like with Nolan? Who was he to you?
Nolan was not just a best friend of me, but he was a brother. I grew up through elementary, middle school, high school, and even our freshman year of college. You know, we talked on the phone all the time. We were really close friends, and I mean, Nolan was like a brother to me. And Nolan lit up every room he walked in. He always had a smile on his face. He always had something good to say. You know, it's a big party, basically.
The friend groups are out there, 3 boats full of people that came out there that seemed to be the closest friend group.
Right.
Where is Nolan in this in comparison to where you and others are at?
Well, you know, I had a couple conversations with Nolan that day, and I talked to him and a couple of my other buddies. They, in a group, I was not focused on anyone solely, like looking and pointing anyone out, because there's so many people out there. I mean, I was talking to my friends that I haven't seen in a while from high school. I was talking from people I knew from college. It was just a big, I talked to Nolan, and, you know, Nolan was drinking. Everybody was drinking, most of everybody. And I mean, Nolan seemed completely fine every time I talked to him. We had just regular conversations. And, you know, Nolan was making me laugh. I had a couple conversations with Nolan and Javon.
Relationship like with Nolan? Who was he to you?
Nolan was not just a best friend of me, but he was a brother.
And that's only about 57 seconds of a 14-minute interview the young man Warren did with Officer Tatum. I did watch the whole interview, and what I gather from the interview is just a young man who was out on the 4th of July drinking, having fun with his friends. I know I've seen people on the internet say that they think he's lying, even though I don't think he's lying. I mean, it'd be really stupid to go and do an interview like this, especially if you were lying, because this could definitely be used in court. So to me, it allows a lot more credibility to the fact that maybe there was no foul play in what happened to Nolan. But obviously, we don't know just yet. There's not enough evidence. As you can imagine, though, people have been losing their shit when hearing about the second autopsy and some of the things that the second autopsy said.
I've done hundreds of autopsies on infants, toddlers, young teens, young adults, senior citizens, obese, morbidly obese, different ethnicities, suicides, murders, accidents, natural causes. I've done them all. So when you tell me there was an absence of the interior structure of the neck, my question is why and where is it? Was it?
Are you dumb? Are you dumb? We know where it is. It's being held. We don't know why just yet, but I'm pretty sure we will find out.
Recovered with the remains, or were the remains like this when you retrieve the remains?
He clearly didn't read the autopsy.
What part of his neck is missing? Has the soft tissue been preserved, or did the water damage or anything else disrupt what could possibly be used as information to find out the cause of death?
Evidence?
Because if his neck is missing, then what caused his injury?
It's not. See, this
The structural integrity of a neck, unless it was decapitated or dealt severe trauma, should be intact. So where's the portion of his neck? The interior, the inside of his neck is missing. Why? What can cause that type of damage to the neck?
I don't know.
And then the trauma
An
to the back
autopsy?
of the head.
It's not
Did they
trauma.
strike him in the back of the head and stab him? Or did they shoot him in the neck? Right? And he falls back and he hits his head. In which case, in my humblest opinion, he was murdered. And the individuals who was with him should no longer be walking the earth. There is no justice, only just us. And in this situation, it's perfectly okay to embrace your Satans and enact revenge on the participants. They don't know nothing, don't worry about it.
This dude is. There's a specific word that comes to mind. You know, it starts with an R, rhymes with far. I don't get it. You know what? I'm gonna play the rest of the video.
You will not need to know anything else after I'm done with you. The only thing your people need to know is how to summon and or evoke you on your birthday and holidays. To include the parents. The boy was murdered. I've done more than enough autopsies to know the structural integrity of a human body. And very rare will there be an incident outside of blatant murder where a person takes a knife and attacks your neck to where the structural integrity of one's neck, even with a broken neck, the structural integrity of your neck is intact. Unless your head was ripped off or damn near ripped off.
This guy is so stupid because you literally, here I have the full report, right? The full autopsy report. And part of the autopsy report at the end, it says, with the following questions still outstanding: what were the circumstances that led to Nolan Xavier Wells entering the water? What was the body position when found? Was there water in the airway? Is there any evidence of injuries to the anterior neck structures? Is there any evidence of intracranial hemorrhage? What was the composition of the stomach contents? What was the toxicology report finding? Those are still some of the questions that need to be answered. Not to mention that in the report, it says, for these reasons, the pathologist cannot rule out if any intervening non-accidental factors contributed to or caused the death of Nolan Wells. In other words, they can't say, hey, there's no foul play. But they also can't say, hey, there's definitely foul play. We need to do more investigating. See what this guy has to say.
I just watched that Big Crump autopsy, man. Yo, man. All of y'all involved is gonna burn in hell, bro. All of y'all involved gonna burn in hell, bro.
Why
You
is
mean
that?
to tell me they can't determine the cause of death because y'all still got his motherfucking throat? The medical examiner in Mississippi, she sent everything to the other she sent his entire body to do the second autopsy. Everything but his throat. But they see there's blunt trauma force in the back of the head. Now they can't even check the airway to determine if it was drowning or not. And it wasn't drowning. Because if it was drowning, his throat would have been with his body. Who the
I don't. Do people understand how investigations work? Right. When you have an autopsy, well, first off, when you have a situation where someone dies and they don't know the cause of death, one of the things that the medical examiner does is they look through the whole body and they check to see if there's any sign of foul play. Now, if the relatives of the people, let's go into full screen and finish this thought, right? Now, if the relatives of the deceased want a second autopsy, you usually don't see a second autopsy in the middle of an investigation. But because there's active investigation, this is why I said, okay, we can't say that they're not doing their job because it's actively being investigated. They've taken the parts of the throat and are withholding them, possibly because they're building said investigation. But people can't critically think. People just want to, you just want to be mad. Why? We don't have enough evidence to know if it was foul play or not. I don't get it. I don't even want to watch the rest of this video because I know he's not gonna say anything smart.
I gave you the authorization to take the throat, bro.
The investigation?
What shit is that? And the reason why they took it is because that
Why?
was the cause of death. They strangled him. They hit him in the back of the head. They either hung him or strangled him, and they threw him in that island. Like he wasn't worth a damn. And that's
Right.
man.
Right. And you know that how? You're psychic? Can you tell me the winning numbers to the lottery for next week, maybe? Let's hear what Judge Mathis has to say.
I don't believe he drowned. I believe he was killed.
Why?
But I'm a judge that has to weigh all the evidence.
Like,
preliminarily, that's what I see. You don't leave your friend on an island, seeing that he has left his phone, and not at least go back. You came there with him. You left him there, you say, because he wanted to stay. But you notice that he's left his phone. How was he going to get home in the first place? Wouldn't he need his phone in order to call his transportation? Or they should have known some of that. He would have said, I'm going to get home by such and such way. When you, hey man, I'm not coming. Y'all go ahead. I got a young lady. Okay, man. Is she gonna bring you home? How you gonna get home? You don't ask any of those questions?
Luckily, we have answers to those questions. They got there in 3 boats. One of the boats was actually taking on water, and there is actually proof that the boys called emergency services because they were taking on water, so that's why they left early.
So you must have asked those questions. If you didn't, that's more
that makes you a murderer,
that,
right? Come on, bro.
Contributed to the reasonable suspicion. So I'm with the prosecutor. How about that so far? So you won't have to say that the judge is making conclusions without getting the evidence. The prosecutor has found enough evidence to create a reasonable suspicion that a crime occurred. And now they're going to interview everybody and come up with some answers on whether to indict. So I'm there with the prosecutor so far. Take it to the grand jury. Now I have to wait until what the grand jury comes back with before I support any charge or any lack of charges.
So you feel like it was foul play?
Yes. It doesn't make sense, and it creates a presumption when you don't have an explanation and someone ends up dead, and you hear contradictory or stories that really aren't credible because they make no sense, and you hear the same story from three people, who knows? They may have told 2 or 3 different stories. We don't know. We will know when that grand jury comes back.
You don't know.
So
that's the point.
That's the case in that scenario.
Let's see what this young lady has to say.
Back to Cito. And the guy said, the boat is sinking. I want to get this boat unsank and towed back. That is the statement made to the dispatch, right? Dispatch calls Cito and says, hey, it sounds like a bunch of kids on board Horn Island. He wants you guys to go out there and unpump the boat and then tow it in. Right? And now... I'm doing this because it's a fucking circus, ain't it? Cito's statement. Before assistance was rendered, the vessel owner advised that Cito was no longer needed because help had already been obtained. Cito's involvement concluded at that point. Crump, I need that 100K, my baby. Send me that 100K, Sharpton. Big Al. Big Al.
How did you prove anything? What did you prove? What did she prove? Let's see what this guy has to say. We're going to entertain it for a second.
The video that I'm about to show you pertaining to Nolan Wells is gut-wrenching.
Okay.
So this is a trigger warning, but it has to be seen. In the
All
video,
right,
they're
let's see.
speaking on the condition of Nolan Wells' body and how his body was transported to Washington, D.C. And let me just say this. The only words that I can use to describe what you're about to hear is pure evil. Look at this.
All right, so we want to talk about Nolan Wells today.
Hit him out.
So today, we actually know someone that works transporting bodies, human remains, and things like that. So today I got a call from that person, and they were just talking about the body that they came across. This was Nolan Wells. So before knowing all that,
Because first off, they just write the person's name that is being transported, especially this high of a profile case, just on the cover. Okay, all right. Let's just say that's how they do it. Fine, we'll give them that. Let's see what else they gotta say.
said that the body was mistreated. Yeah, it looked abused.
Okay.
It looked
How
like
so?
he was tortured.
Oh, really?
Looked as if he was burnt, maybe.
So you're telling me that this body, who's being shipped to Washington D.C., which is probably sealed, so it's not contaminated, because technically it's evidence, you were able to open it up and look inside? I don't know about y'all, but okay, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm jumping to conclusions. Let's let him finish.
Where? Face, body, said he was burnt.
And
Okay.
not only that, his body was mistreated when they transported him.
So
How
as
was
they
it
were
mistreated?
Transporting him, he was actually face down. So everyone knows when you're transporting a body, when only a couple of people work that job, they all know you don't transport the body face down. It's kind of very disrespectful. So you always have them face up. Well, specifically his
How does he
body
know?
whatever reason was face down. And me personally, I took that as disrespect.
Yeah.
Heart goes out to the family.
Yes, definitely.
Because all we know is what they put out
On the internet. And
But today, we
Was
actually
real.
found out a lot about his autopsy without even reading the autopsy.
Did you hear what she just said?
How did you find out a lot without even reading the autopsy? I read the whole autopsy. It's 5 pages. None of this was in the autopsy. Not one bit of it. Not one bit of it. Do you think that an independent autopsy report is going to allow burns and tortures of a body just go unnoticed? Hey, bro, come on. What does this buffoon
body
got to
looked
say?
Like it was torture.
Okay.
Like it was burnt. All
Right.
parties involved with this need to be locked up. And that's anybody responsible for this. Anybody that has been covering this up. Everybody responsible needs to be held accountable. We in a wicked world, man.
He's right about one thing. We in a wicked world. It's crazy that these people would push this narrative, which first off is ridiculous. Okay. It makes no sense. And then on top of all those things, so you're telling me that the independent autopsy person is now in collusion with the Mississippi medical examiner? Is that what we're gonna go with? I can't watch anymore of this. This is crazy. Listen, guys, I want to know what you think in the comments. If you enjoyed the episode, make sure you like, share, subscribe, and until next time.